All right, welcome back. Taping this on a Tuesday night here on the Chase Must podcast, where I am joined by a first timer, a coach who just had a gigantic season, a fun year for Virginia Tech. He is a Virginia Tech coach, baseball manager, John Szefc. John, good evening, sir. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. How are you doing, sir? Does it feel like the season's over? Because I just imagine when you go on that kind of run and you just spend so much time with your guys, and it's a long year, and you battle and you continue to rise up the rankings, and then before you know it, for a conference tournament, you're number 4 in the country, and you're like, okay, this is amazing. This is just an all-time great year. What you've been building to for 6 years, and then it's just gone because college baseball can just be so cold-blooded, where it's like, and then one weekend it's just over. Is that something that you still feel like a little bit, where you're like, man, I can't believe this season's already over?
Well, I mean, the college baseball season can be a very, it is a long run. It can be 4 or 5 months depending on how well you're doing. And
Mm.
I mean, our year was good. It was outstanding. I can't say anything other than that. It was tremendous. And but it can end abruptly as it did. But you got to look at it at the end of it all. There's 16 teams playing. We felt, we earned that right, and we went to the last game of a super regional, and it's hard to do that. Um, and we kind of came up a little short in the end, but I mean, our guys, I think they really enjoyed playing with each other. Certainly as the season went on, I know I and the rest of our staff just enjoyed being with the group day after day. I've been with some good teams before. This one was as good as any, if not better. And that's not a knock on any other team I've been with, but more of a compliment to these guys. Tough bunch of guys, battlers, um, and they had a lot of success. They had a lot of success because they're good. I mean, they're talented. But I think when you combine that with the toughness of the group and how much they enjoyed being together, I think they were good enough that they kept playing for a long time.
Did you have that sense, though, before the year, when you're getting together and you're practicing in the winter and you're getting ready for the season, that this group was different and that you had maybe the best team you've ever coached ready to go, and like the rest of America was going to find out as the season went on, but you had an inkling that this could be a special year?
Well, I knew we had a special group of guys. Like you never, like I never know how it's going to go. I can't tell you how next year's going to go,
Hmm.
or the year before. But I mean, as I look back on last year, we had a lot of unproven, so to speak, arms, and we didn't have a whole lot of ACC starting experience that were coming back. If you look back this time last year, no one knew who Drew Hackenberg was.
Hmm.
No one really knew what Griffin Green was going to be able to do as a Friday night starter in the ACC. No one had even heard of Kieran Higgins, or really what a guy like Jonah Hurney was going to do. There was a lot of didn't knows,
Hmm.
So I give those guys a lot of credit on our pitching staff for what they were able to accomplish. We also had, for instance, a guy like Cade Hunter who was coming off an injury, didn't play a ton down the stretch in 21. And he came back and he caught almost every day and was tremendously productive and will be a fine draft pick at the end of this week. So there was a lot of contributions, like big time contributions from a lot of different guys. So just fortunate to be around that group, and I think they kind of laid out a really long legacy for themselves for whenever they come back to Blacksburg. A lot of future players and teams they're gonna want to hear the story from them, not from me, but from them.
Well, do you have some stories inside where you're like, when you're going through this rise, the ACC tournament, and obviously the regionals and super regionals, was there anything where you were like, okay, I don't have to say anything to these guys. They're focused, they're different, and they're going for it.
Yeah. When I say story, I mean like the story of how the year went, not like
Mm,
particular story,
yeah.
but this group kind of cemented their reputation, I think, in our place for a long time. And what I mean by that is like future players,
Mm,
future coaches are going to want to they're going to want to be in tune with how that thing unfolded. Just like, when I came here in 17, I had the pleasure of, not as an opponent, it wasn't a pleasure, but I was able to watch the 13 team play
Mm-hmm.
that hosted a regional in Blacksburg. And, we played a 3-game series against them in College Park. That was my first year at Maryland. And they're very, very good. And so it's been interesting for me to listen to some of the stories of how that year went with those guys and what they kind of accomplished and kind of the standard that they set. And I mean, I can tell you every team I've had here has been trying to live up to that standard, which was tremendous. And now I think, future teams will probably try to not only live up to 13, but probably also to 22.
What's been the biggest lesson that you've learned about yourself as a manager coach since you arrived at Virginia Tech?
I'd say 2 things. Number one, you really have got to have patience with things, with a lot of things, not just with players, but with building projects, with how people get back to you, with the recruiting process. Like, patience is a very valuable word in the English language that a lot of people in this day and age can't have and don't pay enough attention to.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing I would say would be to establish a lot of team type things away from baseball that can bring the group closer together. And me personally, to spend as much personal time with players as possible. That we're not talking about hitting and running and hitting breaking balls and baseball related things.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have the right players, they're talented enough, they're going to be able to perform pretty well when they go out there, and they're going to work as hard at the game as you want them to. So I think those things, patience and really and having good, solid personal relationships with the players. Not that I had in the past, but I think this year just kind of reemphasized maybe to me just the amount of time that it takes to put a special group together, and that it's not just about the baseball things;
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of other things too.
I like it. What's one thing about Virginia Tech baseball that you did not know going in, but you know now?
I think that's probably about the fans. Like
Hmm.
I didn't know how passionate Blacksburg was about baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't. I figured that was the case because I know how passionate they're about other sports here.
Mm-hmm.
And from my experience, everyone wants to go watch and support a winning situation. And as we got into 21, and then obviously this year, we started to play better and have more production. And we tailed off a little bit in 21. We had a lot of injuries that we couldn't come back from. But I think this year in particular, you're able to see the passion from people. I mean, we go out for BP in the last 20% of the 25% of the season. This year, you'd have 200-300 people are watching
Mm-hmm.
batting. I mean, that's just you really don't see that very often in college baseball. So and credit our supporters. They got to the ballpark early. I think they enjoyed being there. They enjoyed the entertaining piece of it, and they're obviously Blacksburg people. They're very competitive now. They want to have success no matter what the sport. I spent time at the softball regional and super regional, and saw the support there for our women, and that was fun to watch. I don't think it matters what they're doing. If they're playing, cornhole in the parking lot before a football game,
Yeah.
they want to have success in that game of cornhole. And that's maybe I didn't know to the extreme that maybe I saw this spring, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, I was telling folks, I mean, me being a big college baseball junkie and me being here in Knoxville and going to so many Tennessee baseball games and
Yeah,
seeing how it was for us, like I tell folks, I was like, Virginia Tech's kind of having the same kind of season in the ACC. It's kind of that same thing, the fun, the celebration. Like we had the coat, you guys had the hammer, which I'll ask about in a second. But there was
yeah,
just this kind of coming on thing where it's like you're building a program Vitello's been building for several years now. And then Blacksburg and Knoxville are big time college towns, and the fan bases are both so just so so animated and so ready for a winner that they will back you when you break through, and they will come. They will have 300 people watching your BP. They will sell out your stadium. They'll be there for you. And I
Yeah.
imagine that had to be super cool for you to coach this team and to see as the season went on, because it was not the case when you started, and then to just see
Yeah.
this kind of impact that it's had on the community and just how many people are coming to the ballpark, and it's like a whole weekend festivity. Like it's the hot ticket and the thing to do. I imagine that was super cool for you.
Yeah, I mean, everything you just said was right on the money. I couldn't say it any better myself. I was really happy for our players in particular because, they put a lot of time and preparation and everything. And you see it as a reward, I think, as a coach or a player when, you're having success based off the amount of effort you've put in preparation you've put into it. Now all these people kind of want to come and watch it. They want to
Mm.
see. They're there beforehand. They're there afterwards. I thought it was really cool how there was a lot of young kids there watching. Um, and I think, hopefully we gave people something to root for and something to feel good about. Maybe similar to what, Tony and those guys are doing in Knoxville. Obviously, they're having a ton of success there. And I've known those guys for a long time, too, before I ever got here. So, yeah, it's just it's been a really very good year for us in general from the baseball. It's been very rewarding. Maybe that's the best word for it. Rewarding year for our coaching staff, for our players. And we now they set the bar so high, and now you're trying to duplicate that. You're trying to stay consistent with it.
Well, that's what I was also going to ask is like, now that you've broken through, everyone just thinks it's linear. Progress in sports is linear. And you look at Mississippi State, they won a title. And this past year, they're finishing last in the SEC. Like they just had a really rough year the following year because the SEC is just such a tough league. The ACC is such a tough league that it's just really hard to sustain that kind of dominance.
It
And it's
is.
not because they just forgot how to play baseball. It's because it's just hard, man. Like it's really, really hard to keep this thing humming year over year. Does that get you excited though? Where you're like, I can't wait to run this back and see if we can do this and we can continue building? Or you're like, hey, we don't measure success in the wins and losses. This was an all-time great run, but the program's going to be the same. We're going to keep handling our business the way we always have, and hopefully the chips fall where they may and they keep it going. But progress is not linear. Like this is it's not College World Series every year, and we haven't broken through where it's just easy from here on out.
Yeah, I'd say again, you put it in pretty good terms there. I can tell you over time, coaching college baseball, one of the challenges I enjoy the most about it is building a group because each year the group's different.
Mm-hmm.
Different people. Some of the players are the same, but a lot of them are different. And now you have to kind of mold this group, hopefully, where they can finish in a similar place to this past year.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot that goes into it. I mean, it starts, obviously on the recruiting side, and obviously we have the Major League Draft coming up here on Sunday, and that tells you a little bit about what you have and what you don't have. But to me over time has been the great challenge is putting the next group together
Mm-hmm.
and having it be, a postseason NCAA tournament, deep into the NCAA tournament type group. And you never know what's around the corner. To your point,
Mm-hmm.
it's not linear. Like you just don't know. You don't know what the next phone calls are going to bring. You don't know what injuries around the corner or what player you might, luck into in recruiting or what guy decides not to sign and comes to school or comes back to school. So there's always surprises and challenges, but when you start having success and you have consistency and the players start to kind of it becomes a player fed program, which I think player led program, I should say, like it's become, then there's a lot of satisfaction that comes in that's not in the form of a paycheck.
Yeah, absolutely. When you look at next year's roster, do you already feel like you have a pretty good handle? Is the MLB draft going to dictate some of what you do this summer and this fall to get ready for next year? Or do you feel pretty good about where everybody is in the lineup and in the rotation going into next year?
I mean, as we sit here on Tuesday, July 11th,
12th. Yeah.
I feel pretty good about it. I'll
Mm.
be honest, like our team right now on paper is probably more advanced than last year's team was at this
Hmm.
time. on paper. I say probably. But, we got scalped pretty good on day 3 of the draft last year on the pitching side. But to our pitching staff's credit this year, it didn't seem to phase them too much. Everybody talks about our offense, which was tremendous this year without question. But our pitching staff, our pitching coach, Ryan Feckel, those guys did a great job of putting it together with a group of guys that didn't have a ton of ACC starting experience. They had ACC experience, but not on the starting side. So I give them a lot of credit for that. And, we'll just see what happens in the next 6 or 7 days. We feel like we have a very good group of players, experienced group of players. And you got to just kind of see how it goes. I mean, this is a very demanding week or two. Spend an awful lot of time on the phone with people, players, families. And I mean, I get what pro ball is. I was into it when I was that age too. It's a lot different now than it was then. I think it's a 20-round draft as opposed to being a 40-round draft. There's no short season baseball. There's fewer opportunities. But I also think college baseball at this level is far different now than it was in the 80s too. The facilities are better. The schedules are better. I mean, it's on TV. I mean, you got crowds. It's the TV. I mean, there's a lot that's going on in college baseball now that wasn't the case even 10 years ago, no less 30 years ago. So,
I mean, it feels like there's a renaissance going where there is just so much of an appetite across this country now to see college baseball. I think, like you said, a lot of it's TV, and it's so much easier to watch your team and watch university than it was previously. But when you go to the atmosphere, it's not walking in to Enter Sandman or anything, or for Nealon doing that, and it's different. But it's big time. You can feel like when you're there in the building, when the things are good, and when you're there on a Friday night in the spring, and you're following a winner. It doesn't even have to be a winner. It's fun. It's so packed, and everyone's close together, and you can just hear a pin drop in the 7th, 8th, and 9th in a close game. Like, I think that's a big thing now for a lot of folks, where they wanted a reason to be able to invest more, because a lot of folks want to go to basketball games. They want to go to softball games. They want to go to baseball games. They don't want to just do football. I think what administrators have learned in the last couple of years is, man, if you put together a good product and you really invest in these baseball programs all across the country, your fans will go. Your fans will they will pay for those tickets. They will go on Friday. They will go on a Sunday afternoon with their family, because it's fun, and it's because it's a really good product now. And it's just something that I think is really exciting. Not just because Tennessee was awesome this past year and things are clicking, but it's across the board. Like, it's just a really fun product that I think a lot of folks were dying to get into, because I think there is a lot of crossover between diehard football fans and diehard baseball fans, right?
Yeah, I think there is. And, to your point, if the venue's a good venue to watch a game in, and you got concessions and seating, and it's a clean environment, and you can bring your kids there. It's the bottom line is, I think what you're getting at, like, a lot of it comes down to what people want to spend their entertainment dollar on. You go to the movies, you can go out to dinner, but typically sports fans want to watch sporting events. And if the atmosphere is clean and the competition's good, and it's entertaining, then they're going to choose to spend their dollar, their entertainment dollar, on your product. And it could be any one of the sports you mentioned. But typically they're going to spend their entertainment dollar to watch a team that's having success, that has a chance to win too. That's just the way it is. I mean, regardless of the sport you're talking about. And that's why I give our people a lot of credit, because they chose to come watch us an awful lot. And I appreciate that. I know our players do. And I mean, we spend a lot of time every single day trying to duplicate that, so that when we roll it out there in February and beyond, that the product is good and it's clean and it plays hard, and people want to come watch it and want to have their kids watch it. And nothing will ever change that, regardless of what our record is, or there's not one thing that'll ever change it. And I will guarantee you that Vitello and any one of those other coaches would probably tell you the same thing. They're trying to put the best product they can on the field and fill their building up. And that's why kids, I think, that's what, they want to come play in power conferences like this, where They can play in great venues in front of really active crowds.
Yeah, I one of the things I would love to see, and I don't understand it because I have you been to Dollywood, Coach?
I have not, but a couple of the guys I work with have. Yeah.
Okay. I was at Dollywood this past Christmas and I saw so many Virginia Tech hoodies, hats, all around me. It was all Tennessee and all Virginia Tech. I just saw so much Virginia Tech and Tennessee gear. And obviously, Bristol was a huge success between the two universities. We're not far from each other. We're not the border, like, it's not a far place. And
Yeah.
then, of course, like I mentioned, with our programs right now, with where they're at and where they're going, that would be such a fun thing. I would wanna go see a game in Virginia Tech, and I would love to see, like, like, some sort of plan where we get to play on a three-game series and some out-of-conference thing because I think that would be a lot of fun. That's, like, one of those that just makes too much sense to me, both in
Yeah.
football and in baseball, that I think
Yeah.
fans want to go and travel, and I think there's a lot of crossover between the Blacksburg fans and the Knoxville fans. I really
Yeah.
hope we can make that happen soon.
Yeah. I can't argue with you. That's a good idea. And I know that the two teams used to play
Mhm.
like a midweek, like a Tuesday type game. I want to say at a minor league park in the middle.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, yeah, I've known Tony. We haven't really talked much about scheduling in the short time that he's been there and I've been here. But you never know what the future might hold. That we
Mhm.
might be able to work something like that out, and we'll have to work on it. So.
What do you think people get most wrong about Tony Vitello that that national folks that don't know him personally get wrong about him?
I can't say. Me and Tony, when
Mhm.
Tony was an assistant at TCU and I was at K State, we spent a lot of time together in ballparks.
Mhm.
Uh, I really have, I used to talk with Tony all the time. We haven't talked much lately, but we used to talk a lot when we were assistants.
Mhm.
And he's a good guy. He's as good as he's a very competitive guy now. You
Mhm.
get on the field now, he's gonna. Yeah, there's nothing. It's not recreational baseball now. He's gonna come get you, as he should. Yeah, and,
Yeah.
and he's got a great staff. And Ross Kivett, who was with him last year, went to Houston. I coached Ross at K State.
Mhm.
Um, Sean McCann, who's on the staff. Sean helped me get a job at K State when I went there. So yeah, we got a lot of traction back there. But as far as I don't know what the misconception about. I don't have any misconceptions about Tony,
Yeah.
but I probably know him maybe a little bit better than maybe other people. But I think Tennessee people, I'm sure they're very happy and he should be. You got a winner there. The guy drives it. I mean, he drives it hard. He's a tremendous recruiter, and obviously he's getting big time guys in there. I can't say what the misconception would be. I don't know. I don't have any misconceptions about Tony.
It's just
I,
interesting that we became the villain of college football or college baseball this year, where everyone wanted to watch Tennessee finally go down, and I think it was just I don't know if it was a dominance thing or just the way in which Tennessee won because it was a lot of firepower and it was a
yeah.
lot of home
Well,
runs and yeah.
the other. I mean, just as an outsider looking in, I mean, they won as much as I've ever seen a team win.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when people winning that much, other people get offended by it
Mm-hmm.
because everybody wants to win, and everybody wants to win on a high level, and they are winning on a high level. And I don't know if it's a misconception more than maybe you might have some people that are jealous of them.
Yeah.
Just a thought. I mean, everybody wants to win like that.
Well, you got to look out for that, coach. Like you got the target on your back in the ACC now. You've
Yeah.
with the kind of year you guys just had, y'all were awesome.
Well,
And
everybody wants to win on a high level, and sometimes when you beat people, that they're not very happy about it.
mm-hmm.
Regardless of whether you're winning big or not, it doesn't matter what sport you're playing. And I think in Tony's case, he's had a ton of success there in a really short period of time, and other people want to have that kind of success.
What's the story behind the hammer? Where did that start?
One of our assistants, Tyler Hanson, I think, came up with the idea and wanted to have the offense to have some kind of an identity. And I think it started out as being, if somebody hits a home run, maybe they sign, you get a sledgehammer and they'd sign it or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden it went from signing it to swinging it. And it just kind of built into this like folklore kind of thing. And,
mm-hmm.
but the fans, I think that the people come to the ballpark enjoy. I know the players enjoy it. It's definitely become an identity. I think people in college sports that watch the game, the college game is different than the pro game. I can
Mm-hmm.
tell you, like, when we do that, it's not to show anybody up. It has nothing to do with that. It's just to kind of, it's something our guys rally around, just like,
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee rallies around the code. Miami football has the turnover chain.
Mm-hmm.
It's really the same kind of thing. I mean, it's just, you're trying to get young people to rally around something, to give them an identity, to make it fun.
Mm-hmm.
You see foam hammers, like little kids swinging foam hammers up in the stand. Like, that's a cool thing. I mean, no one's getting hurt by it. I don't think anyone's getting offended. I don't think. I think give Tyler credit. It started with him, and it kind of built with the rest of our staff and with the player. Obviously, the players were the ones that really took it and ran with it. And now we have a thing, which is a pretty cool thing, I think.
What was the first thing you told your guys after the super regional loss? What was the first thing you made sure to make sure that they were aware of?
I don't know exactly what the first thing was, but the one thing I did tell them is that you guys, like, don't feel bad about losing today on this Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
You guys just won 45 games. You won the ACC regular season. And my biggest point was kind of what I said earlier, that future teams that come in here, future players, they're going to want to know the story. They're going to want to know
Mm-hmm.
what happened. I said, you're going to find yourself places this summer at a gas station or in a grocery store. And people are like, well, hang on a second. You played on that team? Can you just give me like how did that happen? Like, how did that
Mm-hmm.
go? And you're going to find yourself telling people you don't even know the story of 2022. It's funny because I remember standing in that same room when our season ended in 20 because of COVID. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, one of the great stories of 20 will be no one will ever really know what would have happened
Mm-hmm.
because the season ended so abruptly. Well, people know what happened this year because they watched it. So, the story did play out in front of people's eyes and on TV and everything else. And so anyway, when you that kind of a day stings, and you're trying to
Mm-hmm.
take the sting out of it for the players as best you can, which is really hard to do. But and I wasn't trying to make anything up. I was just trying to be honest with our guys, and that they had as good a year as you're ever going to have, most to this point. And just be prepared because people are going to want to know. They're going to want to know what happened. And then the last thing I kind of added to it was that when you come back, from pro ball, or you graduate and come back, or wherever you're doing, future teams and players and coaches, like, they're going to roll a red carpet out for you because you're going to have some kind of star power when you come back in here. If you're a guy sitting in this room, because you know what you had to go through, and you knew what it meant to be a part of this group. It was more than just the wins and losses. It was a valuable, very valuable experience to be a part of that group, whether you're a coach or player or trainer or strength coach or whatever. But anybody in that room, you know, knew what it meant to be a part of that group, went into it, and they'll talk about it for a long time, and no one can ever take anything away from them because of it.
What are you going to miss most about coaching this group?
They had a lot of fun playing together. I enjoyed
Mm-hmm.
watching them over time, win or lose, and there was a lot of winning. But those guys really enjoyed just hanging out together, and they were very good at taking the baseball out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning they could they could do other things. They could talk about other things. They could joke about other things. They were probably really good at doing stuff off the field, away from campus, which, social type things.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing I probably miss the most is just being around the group away from baseball. I'll miss the talking to Tanner Schobel and Kate Hunter every day, just about non-baseball things. Um, Guys like Biddison really, I think, helped me in my coaching career. He kind of brought me back to being more personal with players, a lot more, and keeping like the business part of it out of it as much as possible. So, you know, I, I learned a lot from these guys as a coach, I think, and they helped me a lot, and hopefully we help them. And just because you're in your 50s or 40s or whatever doesn't mean you can't learn from a year from players. hopefully they learn from coaches, but I can tell you that we certainly learned from those guys too. And I know I absolutely did this year.
That's awesome. We'll end on this. When the season ends and you get some time away after really going through the grind and just baseball, what do you do? Well, how do you get away? Do you go on vacation? Do you go to the mountains? Do you go fishing? What do you do to get away?
I really just try to spend some time with my wife and kids. I got 3 kids that are high school, middle school age. We had our kids a little later, and sometimes I feel like in a lot of cases that the job takes me away from the family part of it a lot. So I just try to spend time with them, whether it's, we went up to Pennsylvania for a couple of days over the July 4th holiday and played some golf up there and went to a family event up there for 2 days. I don't really care what I'm doing, but if I'm able to do it with my wife and my kids, it's fun for me. Whatever that is, whether it's sitting down at a dinner or whether it's going to a movie or whatever it is, it really doesn't matter.
You or Tanner, who wins on the golf course? 18 holes. Who wins between the two of you guys?
Tanner who?
Huh?
Me or who I'm saying?
You or Tanner Scobell.
Oh, Schobel?
Yo, Schobel, yeah.
Oh, those guys would kill me in golf. I'm like a recreational bad golfer. Those guys are probably way better than I am. Yeah.
Okay.
Just about any one of them.
I like it. Coach, how do the good folks, all the Virginia Tech fans who are listening to this particular program, how do they support your program this summer and going into next year?
I mean, I just hope that they choose to come back to the park. I mean, we'll have a good product on the field. I think it'll be probably slightly different, but it's going to be different every year, no matter what sport you're talking about. But I think if it's good and the players give effort, like I know they will, then hopefully the people want to come back and support the players and enjoy the venue. And that's really the best thing that they can do to support us. Just come to the ballpark.
There you go. Coach, this has been great. Thank you so much for giving me so much of your time this evening. Good
Sure.
luck this summer and next season, and we'll have to check back in again soon.
Anytime.